Alright, disclaimer, I'm new. Well, not exactly. I bought access to the game in 2012. I just didn't play it after it went live. And now that I've decided to put some time into the second game's early access, I want to be prepared. Which is why a couple of days ago I already did that class deep dive, and today I want to see what stuff I should get from the shop. Now, however much I'd like to convince myself that an extra pair of hands is an account upgrade, or how I need to look good to feel good, in game of course, those aren't exactly essentials. I mean, look at me. I got a hole in my sweater because my dog thought this was her chew toy. And then I'm kinda dirty because a horse thought I would taste good. So let's take a look at some quality of life upgrades worth getting instead. Also, full transparency, I won't actually buy anything from the store before the game goes live. And that's for two reasons. First of all, I want to make sure that the things I'm about to talk about are going to be as relevant in the second game as they were in the first. And second of all, I might be inclined to wait for a sale, but I'm going to get to that in a bit. You probably already figured this out, but the name of the game is Stash Tabs, and there's quite a few to pick from, and the general consensus seems to be that there are 4 must-haves, a couple of nice-to-haves, and maybe 1 or 2 that don't really offer that much. Now, in whatever Reddit thread I seem to open, everyone always puts the currency tab on top, and I can see why, as it should allow you to stash up to 5,000 of every single currency in the game, and seeing how they would otherwise take up regular inventory slots, and how low the maximum stack capacity would be, this is probably gonna be my first purchase as well. Also, based on what GGG already showcased during their latest live streams, I wouldn't be surprised if this remains the top pick, by the way, as they want us to be able to upgrade items even as we level, for which we're gonna need currency, but then we'll also need some if we want to upgrade our waystones, breach tablets, and so on. Second on the recommendation list seems to be either maps or fragments. Now, before I commit to either of these, I want to actually find out which maps exactly go into this tab. I mean, there's probably gonna be the basic ones, but there's also tablets you need for breaches and rituals, or the logbooks for expeditions, and hell, maybe even keys to the Pinnacle boss. And the reason I mention these is because there are already Delirium and Ultimatum stash tabs, which might actually hold some of the things I just mentioned. I'm also gonna assume that the fragments tab will be of equal value, as they already talked about breach splinters, which are those components that can be turned into a breach stone and then used on a realm gate to enter the twisted domain. And that brings us to the Premium tab upgrade, which introduces some extra functionality to your otherwise regular stash tab, as you can set them to public so that trading websites can index the contents, and you can even choose the price of the items individually or collectively, as well as selecting affinities, meaning that even if another tab is open, this one will still take those items first. From what I understand, you'll want at least one of these, as they will basically enable you to trade with other players. Except if you're maybe a solo self-found player, then they might get bumped down a notch. There's also one thing I forgot to mention for the previous ones, and that's that they're considered premium tabs as well. So all of the features I just mentioned, they also apply to those. So all in all, it seems to be that these 4 will help you declutter your inventory and increase your overall enjoyment of the game. So let's take a look at what they're gonna cost us. A premium tab upgrade only costs 15 points, with the caveat being that it upgrades an already existing one. If you have to buy a full tab, then the price will increase to 40. The map tab will be the most expensive one and will cost you 150 points, whereas both the currency and the fragment ones will cost you 75 each. And here's a cool thing, if you bought into the early access, you'll have at least 300 points to spend, which at first glance would be enough for the currency, map and fragment tabs, and would leave you just 15 shy of upgrading your regular tab to a premium one. Except for the fact that GGG puts these on sale rather frequently. So even if you buy 2 out of the 3 of the more expensive ones outright, if you then wait to purchase that third, you can actually have enough for all 4. Now, I don't really think they'll run this sale right at launch though, so we might need some patience. Technically, we can also wait for all tabs to go on sale and splurge then, but depending on how much currency or other types of items that will drop early on, I'm probably gonna go for the most convenient ones as I need them. Then there are also 2 bundles to consider, one for the regular tabs and one for the premium ones. And these can go on sale as well, by the way. And they also both operate in the same way, as you basically get 6 extra tabs for the price of 5. Now, while I do think these might be worthwhile eventually, I'm not sure they're gonna do me any good at the start. I will probably buy a bundle eventually as the months go by if I do notice that I systematically run out of inventory space. But I'm most likely gonna wait for a sale for these, and by that time I should also have a better grasp on whether I should get a quad tab instead or not, which is basically the same as a premium slash tab, except that it has 4 times as much space. So these are the basics, the bare necessities if you will, but there's quite a few more that can be bought, and when talking about the map and fragment tabs, I already mentioned I would prefer to wait and see which maps exactly they can store, because we also already know that at this point Deliriums will be one of the endgame's activities, and there is already a dedicated Delirium tab available that stores simulacrum maps and up to 5,000 of each orb of Delirium. But I do also have to mention that the currency they were talking about for POE 2 was distilled emotions instead. So I'm not sure whether these tabs will get updated when the game goes live, or whether this new currency goes straight into the basic currency tab, or maybe a whole new set will get introduced. And the same goes for that Ultimatum stash tab, which states that they can store up to 5,000 of each type of catalyst, which is yet another currency type we already know we can get during the endgame. So yeah, I'll probably just wait and see what happens before pulling the trigger. One type I haven't talked about yet is a divination tab though, which holds cards that are dropped from monsters and that can be traded in for rewards. Now I might have missed this, as it feels like I'm going straight from elementary school to college by switching from Diablo 4 to this game, but I haven't seen any mention of cards dropping yet. But the people on Reddit do put this one pretty high on the list of the must-haves. So if cards tend to drop, then I'll probably bump them up a notch on my own list as well. And lastly, there's the ones for gems and flasks, which I noticed not a lot of people seem to recommend. I kinda understand why for the flasks, and I know I've barely played the first game, but I can imagine I'm just gonna hang on to whatever flasks I don't want to get rid of in my regular tab and vendor or even destroy the others. Now the gems being so low on people's lists did surprise me at first, especially since I'm the kind of person who hangs onto items and upgrades for way too long. But then again, if the different currencies have their own tab, and maps and fragments go into their own specific ones, I guess it's fine to hang on to gems in the regular tabs. Now this would mean missing out on some quality of life features like filtering and sorting, but I'm not sure if it's worth spending money just for that. So these are the personal tabs, and I do know that there's a guild equivalent as well. But my plan is to first focus on my own account, although I did buy the Liberator of Rayclass supporter pack, so I probably have a few points to spare. And when I was playing Guild Wars 2, we did create a nice community guild with anyone who wanted in. So if I end up doing the same in Path of Exile, I guess I'll drop some of my points on those as well. By the way, I would also love to hear from more experienced players whether there's any use for solo guilds, which is a thing I've seen in most MMOs, as you basically can get extra inventory space that way. And that's all of the functional stuff. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't spend an inordinate amount of time looking at all of the cosmetic upgrades. I'm probably gonna hold off on buying any at first though, especially since the pack I got already includes a ton of armor sets, weapon skins, finishers, level up effects, as well as 2 hideouts, so I think I should be good early on. But man, some of the bundles that were released in the past look downright ridiculous, and in a good way. The fact that you can change about every single skill effect, have armor sets that interact with the game like the penance set becoming bloodier the more life you lose, or that set that turns you into a celestial necromancer, that is cosmetics done right in my opinion. Especially if that money then flows back to the company and to the game. Some of the specials kinda caught my eye as well, by the way. Especially the rings that count your steps and the items that you've picked up. And I know they're useless in the grand scheme of things, but I like that they're trying out things like these for the game. The one thing I might consider getting is the Guild's Timekeeper map device though, because I would find it pretty fun to race other players and create some kind of fun little competition. But again, I'm gonna do my best and hang on to my points for as long as I can. Now, I did mention a couple of times I got the Liberator pack, which means I do have 4 early access keys I can share with the community. Ironically, I can't use a simple giveaway bot on Twitch or Discord, as that actually goes against my country's rules and regulations. But I'm allowed to give them away as part of a challenge. So I'm probably gonna make 4 puzzles by Friday, with the answer of each of these puzzles being one of the codes, and I'm gonna share them on X throughout the day. So go follow me on there, and if you'd like to see an absolute first timer tackle the game, go follow me on Twitch as well. And while you're at it, a like would help this video so much with the algorithm, and subscribing to the channel would help me, as I'm about 80 subs away from hitting that 10k number.